Welcome to this masterclass on how to finally take charge and take a step in your career with confidence. What we'll be covering today is first, what is it that makes you stuck, maybe where you need to change something in your career? What's kind of like the root causes for these things? We're going to look at concrete action steps, as I said, like to build confidence that really helps you to explore meaningful career options. The confidence is kind of the base for all of that, to really know who you are, be proud of who you are, and then actually do what you love. And the third step we're going to look at is really the tools that you can use to define your next steps in your career. These are the couple of things we're going to look at. Now, right now, you're probably in some way, form or shape, you're probably stuck in a way in your career. You want to develop something, you want to change, you want something different. You don't really know how, maybe, to change and what to. Maybe you're have this comfy golden cage that just holds you back from actually taking any action. I know how it feels, like that paycheck that comes every month, and it's that security and that stability, and we're all hardwired, literally hardwired from our brains to actually embrace stability and security. That's still kind of like the leftovers from when we were hunting and gathering mammoths and berries. That's kind of like that part that's holding us back as well. Maybe you just lack excitement and motivation to really bring everything to work, and that shows. So there's also kind of that stuckness that's from everybody around, that's kind of like this yucky place sometimes, that's just holding back on motivation as well. You just want to start your own business, maybe you have these ideas, but you just don't know how to start those. And you lack the visibility maybe at work to really take your career to the next level, to get the raise that you actually need, to that visibility in the meetings towards your managers and stakeholders. Maybe there's something that's kind of just not sitting right. So if you can see yourself in any of those, then you're in the right place, because you're going to definitely look at these things and how you're going to turn these around. And the biggest part, and that's something I have seen over and over in my career as well, is like, I just want to stop watching other people, like these people talking a lot and just like not really delivering value, because you probably deliver hard value and it's just not that visible, for example. They all take the best opportunities, and now it's your turn. And that's really what you want to get to. It's your turn to take that next step, whatever that might be for you. You probably want a career that truly fulfills you. You want Mondays to be exciting again. You want to understand what's driving your passion and you want to live it. You want to take charge of your career. You want to have a meaningful impact in the world, and you probably want to fulfill your full professional ambitions without burning out. These are things and topics and themes I see a lot with my clients. They often come with these topics along these lines, and then you really get cracking and working on these, how to move forward with those. My ultimate goal, and what I see with many other people as well, is like to have a freedom-filled life that brings you success without burning out. So really like that ease to get success, however you define success, without that hard work of burning out and sacrificing everything before you actually get to take steps and that feel good and right for you. I'm Miguel. I have started a couple of startups in the past. Like I call myself a serial entrepreneur. Some of those with big success, some of them actually have with big fuck ups, lots of money lost on the ways as well. But there's a lot of experiences of building teams, working with teams, usually in technology, digital world. That's kind of like where I'm home. I've been managing and leading teams as well. At Philips, for example, I've been leading data science team, but also other teams in a digital world. That's kind of like that experience, the corporate experience I bring as well to the table. And since 5 years, I'm a career and leadership coach, and I really work with people to figure out what they really want in their career and how to get it, and to develop the leadership skills, to develop kind of like that leadership range. And it's always along the lines of like, be who you really are and do what you love. It's those two things of being yourself, being your authentic self to the world, and in kind of communication, interaction, leading your teams, as well as this career angle of really doing what you want to do. This is very short about me, but I know you're not here to listen to kind of like my personal stories, but really we want to focus on your career and taking that next step for you. Now, just real quickly, there's hundreds of clients I took through these processes to kind of like figure out what they want, and you don't have to take my word for it. There's also my website. You see a lot of testimonials from lots of people that kind of like have worked with me, that have worked through all of that, that yuckiness, that discomfort, that stuckness, and have actually landed a career, a job, a role, created a role, maybe even that they really, really love. And through all of that experience, and now we're getting to the interesting part, I have created these career growth steps. And this is really like 5 steps I want to take you through. That, yeah, there's kind of stuff that's happening that feels uncomfortable, that stuckness that you experience maybe yourself. And depending on where you are in that process, you have different actions and different things you can take actually moving forward. Now, the first phase, yeah, that's kind of like the complaining and unhappy. Maybe some of your friends are kind of in that space. They complain about it, but they're actually never really doing anything about it. They're just complaining for years, maybe. They're stuck in that phase, and that's just it. What you can do, and you see that below the line, is like really understanding what's driving your discomfort. There's assessments you can take, there's questionnaires you can take, all these things that are kind of like help you to understand a bit more, like what's going on, what's driving this complaining and unhappiness. Now, once you kind of have a little bit of understanding, usually that phase around feeling stuck or lost in your career, you don't really know what you want, you don't really know maybe even who you are, what's your passion, what's driving you, what's kind of the things that really give you joy. And that might be where you are right now. That's usually when people kind of reach out or don't really reach out, but they feel like, but they kind of, it's kind of that back and forth between I want to do something, but I'm not really taking action. What you can do there is really looking at your past. What have you ever enjoyed? But also looking at kind of the roadblocks. Maybe that's that golden cage, that comfort we looked at before. Maybe there's other things that actually holding you back from moving forward. So looking back at your own past, what have you enjoyed? Maybe you wanted to become a pilot. Maybe you wanted to become a policeman. And that doesn't mean that that's your career right now, but maybe there's something around like society, supporting the society as a whole. Maybe there's something about exploration and research. So there's a couple of themes that might come up for you that just could give you a little bit of a pointer to what could be interesting for you moving forward. Now, the third phase is really about doubting yourself. Like, will I ever get there? Or I'm not good enough? Or I don't even know what I want, and I'm 35 or 40 years old. And I should know, and I should have a career, and like all these external measures and all these kind of things that are putting pressure on yourself, including yourself, or maybe also voices from your past, your partner, comparing yourself to others. That's all coming into in this phase. And that might be also something that you recognize maybe. One thing that you can do is like dealing with critical inner voices, that we're going to look at that. We call them saboteurs. And saboteurs are actually all these inner critics that tell you you're not smart enough, you're not good enough, you're not pretty enough. That imposter syndrome is also kind of part of the saboteur world. The judging of yourself and others, that's kind of the saboteur voices. And there's ways of how you can deal with those. It's also a way of looking at different career options, looking at people maybe you're jealous of or that inspire you. Look at them, what have they done? What are their careers? And what kind of common threads do you see between all of these careers with these people? Now, the fourth phase is kind of like you kind of understand more, but all of a sudden you have a couple of career paths in front of you. You're not really sure which one to choose. And there's really that space of what's the smallest experiment you can run? Okay, maybe I want to use this become an astronaut. That's kind of like a far-fetched long distance plan. So before you really get into that, invest into that as well. What is the smallest thing you can do? Maybe you go to an exhibition, maybe you talk to people, maybe you start interviewing people that work at the European Space Agency or at the NASA. Like, what is the smallest thing you can experience a little bit of that future profession you might get into? And then step by step, you look before you actually quit your job and start a full-time physics and training and get all into the bells and whistles of what you need to become an astronaut. So kind of the smallest steps before you actually take bigger steps, and maybe even quitting your job. And the last phase is really around that frustration around not landing the job, or you want to set up your company, but it's not really working. And there's two things that might be happening. First, you maybe haven't done all the steps before, because there's a process and there's kind of like this development. Maybe you haven't done the work, the groundwork of why do you want this job? What is it in yourself? What are the building blocks that really lead you to this next step in your career? Like when you apply and you don't get any feedback, there might be many reasons, don't get me wrong, but it might also be like you haven't really done the homework of why is that really what you want. There might be something around networking. There's many reasons there. And I also, if you're interested in that, I have a full list also on my website on tools, tips and tricks you can also reach out to me on kind of like tools on really crafting and landing a job in that space. It's not my expertise, I'm going to be very honest. The first phase is 2, 3, and 4. That's kind of like where I really come in. But there's a lot you can do around that. And the second part, so there's a technical things of kind of having done the homework. And the other part is really daring, being convinced and having the confidence, yes, I can do this. Yes, that's kind of like what I want to go for. And having that confidence that you're doing the right step and that you're good enough for that job that you're actually going for. And that's exactly where we're going to focus on the next part of this webinar, is right, that mindset shift. And it's maybe not what you expected, because maybe you wanted more tools and kind of like, we're going to get there, but it's so important to have that mindset shift. And there's kind of 3 mindset shifts we're gonna look at. The first one is embracing a growth mindset. We're gonna look in a second what that means and how it looks like. There's also these saboteurs, these negative voices that come in that same space. The second part is building confidence. As I said before, like I'm gonna give you one tool how you can build confidence. There's many tools out there. But that's kind of the second mindset shift, which builds on the growth mindset, that belief that you can learn and achieve anything with hard work and dedication. And then the second part, which also builds on top of growth mindset and confidence, is adopting a long-term perspective to create momentum and take action. And that last piece, that's so important, to take action, to take yourself, your own career serious enough to really stand up and do something about it. That's such an important part, to really move throughout these phases I just have shown you to get unstuck. There's so much you can do. There's therapy and work and saboteur and confidence and all that stuff you can do. But at the end of the day, you have to take action. You have to commit to yourself, to your own development. And nobody else can do that for you except yourself. Now, let's have a look at the growth mindset to get started and these saboteurs. Now, there's a little bit of text on what the growth mindset really is. It's nothing new. You might have heard of it as well. And what is important about the growth mindset is really that you can achieve anything. You can get better at anything. There's like that unlimited possibilities that you can reach and achieve if you put enough effort and time and dedication and energy into it. Now, there's a lot of these saboteurs, they come in and they kind of like make it their fight against. Like the growth mindset is one side and saboteurs are kind of fighting against. And what's so important is like not only understanding the growth mindset, okay, I can learn, for example, the piano, but really to embody that, to feel it throughout, to like, yes, that I can do that. And for me, there was a couple of years ago, there was a moment when I was doing yoga, and I was always convinced, oh, all these poses and handstand and headstands, and like I can't do that. It was just like there was a limit for me. I put it myself out there, but I wasn't aware of it. And one day a teacher said like, no, let's try. Definitely before Corona, when people were still kind of like doing yoga together. And he just guided me with subtle cues on like, yeah, look, do this, and then the core, and then left leg, and then all of a sudden I did the headstand. And of course, after a couple of seconds, I fell out of it, but I fell out of it because I realized, oh my God, I always told myself I can't do it. Where else in my life am I doing this to myself? Where else in my life am I holding myself back, putting self-perceived kind of like limits and putting myself in a box where I actually don't have to? Because if there's some little bit of guidance and support and help from an expert, they can really like get me there, get me to these things actually I want to, but I don't even dare to speak up because it's kind of too scary for me. So that's kind of like these how these saboteur voices and this growth mindset, they work with each other and they feed on each other. Now, the second mindset shift, and if you have any more questions around also like the growth mindset, feel free to reach out, but also like in the questions and just post them and we're going to look at those in a minute. Now, the confidence to show up as you full you, be who you are, do what you love. The be who you are part is so important. If you don't know who you are, and if you don't feel confident about who you are, then all your career decisions are based on maybe a little bit of a fake person, maybe on something you're trying to be. Maybe you're trying to impress somebody or following dreams of other people that have they put on you, maybe in childhood already. But you're kind of not doing what you want. And that's kind of making it impossible for you to really enjoy what you do, to really be happy with what you do, to be proud of your successes along the way as well. So the confidence is really the key and the beginning to know what you want, to understand your passions, and then moving on from there, looking for a career, the next career step. That might be different, that might pay less, that maybe even involve a training or whatever it might be, but that's much more you, that's much more aligned with who you are. And there's a small exercise, it's called I Am Remarkable. It's a workshop format from Google. I'm also running these workshops. And they're very simple. You just write down by hand, I am remarkable because, and you come up with 25 different reasons that make you remarkable. Here are 5 of myself. They're not very important. It's more about you, what you're going to write down. And we don't really have time in this workshop as well to fully go through that, but maybe that's something for yourself, because it's one thing to kind of get to 25, not just 5 or 10, but really getting to 25. And it can be small things like, I'm remarkable because I went to the gym today. And that sounds funny, but actually it took me a little bit of like, oh, I don't want to go. And I love to work out, but like, it just didn't, like, it was raining and my back was hurting a little. And I was like, yeah, but I still went to. So that dedication to health and my values, that's what makes me remarkable. And there's bigger things, like some of my startups, they have crashed and I was bankrupt and I didn't have any money. And I still rebuilt my life after that time and time again. And these are all things that make me remarkable. And there are so many things that make you remarkable. Knowing that, understanding that, and actually feeling it, it's a really important part of building that confidence for yourself. And then not only doing that and writing that by hand is very important as well. I am remarkable because, and then you again and again, you write that. But it's actually, you repeat that every single fucking day. I didn't write the F word, but I mean it. It's like you repeat that every single day. You keep repeating, you read that list, you look at that list, maybe there's a mantra you have. Like, confidence is a skill, like from that growth mindset. And that's why that is the first one. You can build confidence. You can build that confidence muscle if you practice it every single day. It can be very confusing. I know people feel like, yeah, I am confident or I'm not. Yeah, that shifts, but building that muscle, also from neuroscience, there's a lot of background on that, like how to build and access that confidence in different ways. So you can practice that, but you need to do it every single day. And that's like something that I do a lot with my clients. It's kind of like accountability week after week, after month, to build that along the way before we actually even, the career stuff is usually then the easier things once we have sorted out these things along the way. The third part is really around adopting a long-term perspective. And that's what puts you in this mode of not just looking at like kind of what is my next step, how do I get from director to maybe senior director in a corporate. No, that's a perfectly fine and valid career choice, but adopting maybe a longer career perspective as well. So that means, what does that mean? Having a meaningful life and career that feels right, that's built in like who you are and what you really want. And that takes confidence to stand up for that. So that's why that's kind of like the second. And the third one is only about career now. So really looking at, what life do I want to have? And often I ask clients, when you're 80 years old, what do you want to be proud of? What do you want, when you look back, what do you want to have achieved? How do you think your 80-year-old would measure success of your life? And usually when we get into the right mode, these are very traditional coaching questions. But if you get into the right vibe, there's a lot that comes out of that. There's a lot of insights that help you guide along the way again of, okay, so maybe there's other things I would like to consider and look at instead of just making that next step in my corporate. Once you have that goal, that meaningful goal of looking at what you want, you can break it down into kind of the step-by-step. So what do I need to do in order to get there? What do I need to do in order to become a yoga teacher? What do I need to do to become an astronaut? Which is impossible for me because I have my eyesight, but maybe there's something else that's very close to that profession that I can do. So what can I do step by step to get there? So we do that but with a career roadmap. And once we have that, we start working on the OKRs, objectives and key results, which is another method from Google. And I often use when we really want to get into action and taking steps with my clients to really ensure that stuff is happening and moving and not just nice and to talk about. And then as the third part, like, it's really about action. It's really about moving forward. It's really like, if you don't do anything, and there's all about procrastination and there's a lot of exercises there and being afraid. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of work we can do. At the end of the day, that's still these steps you need to take. And I see after just a month or two with my clients work, they just start work like doing things that it's kind of like they're waking up. They're kind of like that, whoa, these possibilities and this, oh, I feel it and I want to go. I don't even have to be accountability partner for them anymore. No, they just run because they're so motivated by the goals we are creating with them. Now, there's a tool, and I promise you some tools as well. So with this long-term perspective, if you have a couple roles or a couple of thoughts maybe as well, then I always like these 4 pillars. It's like a table you can use, or you can just write it down somewhere else. It's around how to structure a couple of things, because sometimes it can become really messy when you talk about career perspectives, career ideas. If you don't really know the role yet, that's perfectly fine. Then maybe you start with a 5th column on the left, and that's called activities, stuff you like to do. You just write all of that down. Then maybe there's some kind of roles you could see for yourself. And there's a lot of work that goes into those 2 kind of things to really explore that and really go broad before you start narrowing things down. But that's kind of like a tool you can use then as well to kind of explore career options. So you start with activities and roles, and then you look, what kind of company do I want to work in? What kind of structure? Is it a startup? Is it more of a corporate? Is it more a government? Is it kind of the police? What kind of opportunities and options do I have in that space? And then another pillar, and of course, that's a very simple one. It's like the industry. What industry do you want to work in? That can be B2C, B2B. That can be as clear as like very specific in healthcare in that space. As specific as you know, write that down as well. It helps, and it can be different industries as well. It can also be opposing industries that have nothing to do with each other. If you feel attracted to them, write it down, because that's exactly what this is. It's kind of like collecting everything that feels interesting to you. And then there's like the ways of working. What kind of company culture do you want? Do you want to be a consultant? Is it kind of like a startup founder? Is it assistant to a CEO? Do you want to be a team lead? What kind of connection with your team do you want to have? Like all these kind of things that are really, really important to you, you can summarize that as well. That's kind of like giving you an overview of what of options that you might like. that's one of the tools I wanted to offer to you. And the other part is a career roadmap, as I mentioned before. So once you have like one, maybe 2 or 3 career goals, that's on the right side here, you put them here. It's really that, yeah, in this example, that becoming a CTO of a mid-sized tech company was the goal that came out. And then you break it down. There can be a 5-year plan, can be a 3-year plan. I don't really care about the years, and it's also not really not connected to these interview questions. Absolutely not, because that's bullshit. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? That's not what this is about. It's about figuring out what kind of steps do I want to take to reach my goal. What kind of steps are necessary? What kind of trainings? What kind of in-between steps are there to reach that maybe bigger goal I have in my life? And that can be just a 1 or 2 year plan. It can be a 12 months plan. It can be a 3 months plan. But the principle is always the same, to break it down into smaller steps. And how do I get there? What do I need in skills, in connections, in kind of what things need to be in place to get there? This is kind of this career roadmap of breaking things down. Now, this is a very short exercise. If you can, just write something down. It can be an email, can be on your phone, can be on a Post-it. I would just want to get you into this mindset of what is your #1 career goal? You've heard myself talk about this now. You heard like me sharing a lot. Maybe there's some thoughts that are running through your head. So I just want you to take a moment to write down for yourself. And that can be, a career goal can be, yeah, earning $1 million, for example, $1 million a year, fine. It could be owning your own company, setting your own agency in place. It could mean that you want to provide for your family. It could be literally anything. Could be that turning your passion for art, for creating jewelry, turning that into a profession, being able to live from that. Connecting to nature, having as much free time as possible. Like anything is okay. Just write it down. What's your career goal? It doesn't have to be career specific. They can be life goals / career goal, because they're so connected with each other. So I hope you all have something that's kind of, that feels right. And if you don't, then definitely reach out to me as well. But write something down. It can be specific or it can be very vague. It doesn't really matter at this point in time, because what's happening, and I'm 100% sure that most of the people that are here, and the same happens to me, is like, as soon as we get like these big aspirational career goals, and we talk about them and we start talking to other people, we don't really dare, because it's so aspirational and so kind of like, who am I to aspire this really cool thing that's super meaningful to me? Things that hold us back, these saboteurs, they just pop up. Like it's kind of like, they're here, like one of them, another one, like all these negative voices, they keep happening, they keep coming. And there's this dance between like, oh, this is cool, this is what I want, once you know that. And then like the insecurity is holding you back. And it's this dance I often do with my coaching clients, like this dance between those two things of, yes, building that excitement and then dealing with the roadblocks, with the saboteurs, the things that hold you back. And then how do we overcome those? So these are two things, and it's very important to have clarity on those. What is holding you back? Because it might be very big in your head, but if you write it down once, for example, I'm simply not smart enough, that might be something that comes up for you. Once you write that down, you can also look at like, but is that real? Am I really not smart enough? What's the evidence behind that? Well, there's not really. What's the evidence against it? Well, I have this, and I have a master's, and I have done that, and there's a lot of evidence probably against that. So, but it's necessary to get this out of your head and onto paper in order to deal with these saboteurs, to keep you moving forward to a life that you really want and enjoy, because it's your life, it's your only life, most likely. So make the most of that, make it count for yourself, and don't make it count for anyone else, or for like whatever kind of like image you might have that you need to portray or give to other people. No, it's your life. Let's make sure that it's a life worth living for yourself, that you're proud of when you're 80 years old and look back and you can say like, hey, we just got out of Corona and this COVID time, and I really made something happen. in my career and turned this around into something that I really, really enjoyed and wanted. I know you're ready for a career change. How do I know that? You're here, you're spending like, I don't know, 45 minutes, half an hour now. You still have some time left, of course, but I know you're ready for a career change. And I can help you make this happen. And this is really something that I have done with so many people, and I would love to support on that path, because I know you want this. I know you need this, because otherwise you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be listening and watching this. So let's see how we can make this happen. You're probably dreaming of big career goals. Maybe you don't even know what it is, but there's something that's kind of like, hey, this is not right yet. I have this aspiration. There's something in you that's working and turning, and it's kind of like, that dream of freedom and big impact. And it might be hard to find the time to work on the things that actually move the needle, that really get you to a promotion, to a pay raise, to a different, setting up your own company, or whatever that goal might look like that you have. And sometimes you just don't know, you're not really sure what these things are that you should be working on, that you want to work towards. If this is something that you want to work towards, that you want to explore, that you want to learn and create and just like create more clarity on it as well, then I would be happy to talk. You can book a free career strategy call with me. So we're going to explore, we're going to see like what kind of steps, where are you on this journey of these 5 phases we created, and what would be necessary for you to kind of like really create that life and career that really makes you fulfilled. I'm going to post in the comments in a second, in the chat, also the link. But that's actually all of what I had. It's a 45 minutes, so we still have like a couple minutes left for your questions. So I'm also going to turn off the sharing in a moment. We're just going to look at the questions you might be having, so keep sharing. Exactly, don't be shy. Thanks, Karim. Whatever questions you might be having, whatever came up, now is the time to get answers. There's usually beautiful questions that, participants in these webinars have, that they are kind of not really sure, they're doubting. So just feel free to ask. And otherwise, in a couple minutes, we'll be closing this call. Of course, happy as well to talk one-on-one, but here you have me right away. So if you have any questions, go ahead, ask them. If you feel comfortable unmuting, that's also perfectly fine. Just ask a question or type it into the chat, whatever works best for you.
I have a question, Miguel.
Yes.
So basically, I guess where it's really difficult, I think, is if, let's say, you're doing something already and you need to develop new skills. For instance, if you're like, for instance, I'm a really good programmer and I would love to sell my programming skills. And honestly, I get a bit scared to do it. I don't know if I'll be able to do it. And I guess what's the kind of mental exercise I need to do to resolve that?
Yeah, so there's probably looking at evidence of what you have achieved. So if you're already a programmer, then there's probably some sort of like feedback you've gotten, projects you finished. Maybe there's evaluations from your manager, maybe from your colleagues, maybe there's other people that have kind of like you gotten feedback on GitHub, for example. So collect that feedback as you go through. That actually counts for everybody. If you get positive, I do that as well. Like I collect my positive testimonials and positive feedback and notes and emails. I print them out. I put them in a nice folder. And if I feel down, sometimes I look at them. So it's kind of like that. Look at the evidence of why you are a good programmer. What makes you good? And then on the other hand, be also honest with yourself. Maybe there's something you need to learn. Maybe there were some screw ups. Maybe there's something you feel like, hey, I'm actually quite good at these and these areas. But maybe there's some in other areas that you don't really know and you kind of like, yeah, this new language, I don't know, Swift or whatever came up, and I don't really know how to program that, but it's kind of really important for my work. So, and then be honest and then learn that, do courses, talk to people who have done it. So first get the evidence, and then also look at things that might help you to grow and develop further.
Thank you so much, Miguel. I really, really appreciate it. I see a question from Noemi. Would you like me to read it to you, or?
I see it. Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, I have it in front of me, so I'll have a quick look. Having a full-time job can make it hard to find the time to focus on a new job search. How to deal with this? Yeah, absolutely. And probably like if you have even a family, for example, and you went through COVID and there was homeschooling, like there might be times when it's absolutely not possible. Like it's just like maybe there's stretch of times especially with homeschooling, for example, and kids and family, or maybe emergencies, it's just not possible. Then it might be just not a good time. But these phases, they're not years and years and years on end. Usually they're a couple of months, so maybe 3 or 6 months. What might make it hard is you don't fully know what you want, in terms of like, you don't feel the passion and energy for whatever you want, that job you want to apply. If it's just if it's the same role in a different company, then it's an exercise of applying and blocking your Saturday morning for writing applications and connecting and doing that. Then it's basically putting in the work and connecting. Usually it's like network management, because just applying to jobs, especially in the Netherlands, for example, that doesn't really work. So it's really about networking, knowing people, and step by step getting to a job. But if it's not just about the formal application process and the time there, it's probably the energy you lack, because the job doesn't fully motivate you. Because I have seen it so many times when it clicks for people, they're like, that's what I want to do, that's what I need. They kind of run. The coaching stops because they're like so busy with applying and talking to people and setting up the company, or like writing blog posts about a topic because they're so enthusiastic about it. So really, it's about finding that passion first, and that will unlock a lot of time and energy all of a sudden to prioritize that job search and that job change for yourself. Noemi, I'm not sure if that answered your question. Otherwise, you can also like ask a follow-up question. No worries about that. But that's kind of like, is it the passion, or is it the kind of like job grind, I call it, the applying, the networking part, that's sometimes just hard, and you just have to sit your butt down and actually do it, which is never fun. But if you find to have the right tactics, it can actually make it easier, and not just doing hard work, but actually doing smart work, which might save you time, but is a little bit of like different thinking, different way of approaching. So if you need tools for that, there's also my website. You have additional tools you can download which help you with that as well. Let's take the other question. Yeah, cool. I see the comment. What if I know, from Alina, she says, what if I know I have to change something, but not sure which direction to go? If I should grow in my current career or change it, how to find out what kind of role suits me best? So there's a lot of questions in that. How should I, because it's a very big question in terms of like figuring out. I think you start with understanding yourself. The question, let me phrase it differently. The question probably shows that you're not 100% convinced of what you're trying to do at this point in time. Now that's also why you're probably here, because you kind of like, there's some sense in you, in your body, somewhere that is not fully aligned with who you are and what you want. So I think it's really, I don't want to say back to a drawing board, but there's probably some, it's worth going back to one exercise I really enjoy, and I call it, it's kind of like writing your CV, or like writing it, it's more journaling about your life in 7 years chunks. So from 0 to 7, you write about, okay, highlights, lowlights, what has happened, kind of like, don't really go into the trauma stuff unless you feel comfortable about it, but really kind of like what has happened, what gave you joy, with what people were together, what were your hobbies, what were you doing? And then you do the same from 8 to 14, and from 15 to 21, and 21 to 28, and until you reach your age today. And that can give you a lot of clues about like, what do I really want? What did I enjoy? There's a lot of bits and pieces. And sometimes with that exercise, people already start to, things might fall into places all of a sudden. And small changes can like put things into perspective. The other thing I would like to give you as well is there's a lot more exercise. And if you go to my website, then there's like a 96-page PDF, which is a book. You can also download it on Amazon, but you can also get it for free on my website, which there's a lot of exercises that can help you, and you can pick and choose which exercise might help you best to really get to an answer to that question. The second point I would like to give you as well, and that's not part of the book, is that current career. Is that not, are you not happy because of your manager, of your team, of the company you're in? Or is it the role, the activities you're doing on a daily basis that you're not really enjoying? So that's kind of like two different things, because if you enjoy the activities, and sometimes it's hard to distinguish because it's kind of so interlinked with your manager, what you do and what kind of activities you're allowed to do or given, or kind of like how it's done. But that might be kind of a distinction to do, like, is it the company, the surrounding environment that makes it not so much enjoyable and wanting me to get out almost, or get to a different thing, or is it the activities? So these are the things I would give you, like looking at that part and really looking back, assessing. Maybe the third thing, what I really like is looking at, sometimes that sense of jealousy comes up, that sense of like, oh, other, for example, I have that with the Chancellor of Austria. He's like exactly my age. I know I've seen him a couple of times. I'm from Switzerland myself, so I've seen him kind of growing up, but at 32 years old, he's kind of leading a country. So there was some sort of jealousy towards him, like weird, because I have no ambition in that space. But what kind of jealousy do you have? What kind of people do you envy? Or maybe what kind of people do you admire? And then look at what do they do? What have they done? What kind of roles do they do or have they had in the past? And that might also be a pointer for you to say, like, looking at different roles, different career paths, different steps people can take, maybe in your industry, but just a different twist, or maybe a different, or maybe completely big career change as well. But looking at other people and their path, that can be just very simple. On LinkedIn, you type a couple of roles, or look at people that are famous, or are maybe leaders in your industry. Just look at their path and what they have been doing so far. So I think that might be something as well that you could be doing, looking at, that might be giving a little bit more color, at least, to where you are right now. Yeah, thanks for sharing the link. Alina, does that help you a little bit with your assessment? I think it's a very big question. And if you would like talk some more, Karim just posted the link. Feel free to just book some time with me and we can talk a bit more in detail, because it's sometimes a bit hard in these webinars to give really the specific kind of steps that might make sense for you moving forward. All right, I don't see any more questions. Karim, do you see more?
I do not. I think this is people's last chance. Going once.
Yes, exactly. Last minute,
Twice.
Otherwise we're gonna end this for today.
3 times sold to the highest
exactly.
bidder.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Also, thank you for your questions. It was a joy to go through this. I hope you had something. And if there's ever any questions, connect with me on LinkedIn. Talk to me. Send me an email. Yeah.
So can I just ask a quick question, Miguel?
Yeah, of course.
So your free coaching, how long is that?
So that's 1 hour. That's 1 hour of a coaching session. So we have some time. It's not an endless time, but we have some time to really dive into what you want, what you're looking for.
Okay. And how would somebody prepare for that session?
I think the best would be to really be clear on what's kind of your struggles right now, the kind of the discomfort you're having right now, what's the right now, and if you know, what would you like to achieve, what would be your goal, what kind of, and maybe it's just like, I would like to figure out what job I want, for example. Maybe there's some other goals you have, but having those two things clear, I think that really helps to get the most out of this hour we have together.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Cool. Thanks for asking. All right, everybody, now for reals. Thank you all.